الله الله على الأزهر. الله 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 أكبر من الدنيا كمن واكتر. لو قلت وصفها أنا مش حنصفها وكفيها. الله الله رايحين على مصر مين يبعت سلامي في كلمتين يا الله. مشتاق لناسها الطيبين ودي ياما فيها مخلصين يا ما شاء الله. أزهر العلماء تقدر تقول ما تشاء. بدعي لهم رب السماء وقولوا آمين إن شاء الله إن شاء الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. This is the beginning of a series of lessons or sessions, if you like, on a key Sufi text, a seminal Sufi text, in other words. It is the Hikam or aphorisms of Imam Tajuddin Ahmad ibn Atta'illah al-Sakandari, born in Alex around the middle of the 7th century AH and buried in Cairo in 1709. Imam Ahmad ibn Atta'illah al-Sakandari was an aspirant on the Sufi way, and specifically on the Shadhili way. He went on the path of the Shadhili order as a pupil of Imam Ahmad Abul Abbas al-Mursi, may Allah be pleased with him, who is the successor as the Sheikh of the Shadhili order of Imam Abul Hasan al-Shadhili, who is supposed to be, who is actually the founder of the Shadhili order. Since Imam Ibn Atta'illah did not live very long, almost 60 years, and his initiation into the Shadhili order and his recounting of the story behind his becoming a Shadhili murid or aspirant does not include anything about meeting or seeing Imam Abul Hasan al-Shadhili. Then we realize that this book must have been written somewhere towards the end of the 7th century AH, after the death of Imam Ahmad Abul Abbas al-Mursi. He might have started writing it sometime during the life of his sheikh, but well, most probably this book came out after the death of Imam Ahmad Abul Abbas al-Mursi, who died in 686, if I remember well. So Imam Ahmad Abul Abbas al-Mursi died in 686. Then we have 23 years remaining in the life of Imam Ahmad ibn Atta'illah al-Sakandari. Then we expect the aphorisms to have been written sometime between 686 and 709. The aphorisms of Imam Ibn Atta'illah al-Sakandari became the Sufi base text matn par excellence. It became the most famous, concise Sufi manual or catalog of Sufi morality, and it became very popular among Sufis and among commentators, so that I don't think we have any Sufi base text that has achieved the same amount of popularity as the aphorisms of Imam Ibn Atta'illah al-Sakandari. And this is actually proven by the fact that the number of commentaries, the versifications of the Hikam, because they were turned into verse by a number of scholars actually translations into other languages, including English, of course, the language that we're dealing with. A lot of interest in the book, a lot of scholarly interest in the book. If we measure this scholarly interest or compare it to the interest in other Sufi texts, we can hardly find any text that comes close to the popularity of the Hikam in the amount of interest that it levied or gathered or it witnessed among Sufis. Prior to the Hikam, a few centuries earlier than the writing of the Hikam, one Sufi based text, that is a matn, one Sufi based text, a matn, was also popular. And that's the Manazil as-Sa'irin, the stations of the aspirants, by Imam al-Harawi al-Ansari, who died in the 5th century AH. And the book, the base text of the stations of the aspirants, gained a lot of popularity among Sufi scholars and commentators, so that we have to record, or on record I should say, a number of commentaries written on this book. Among the latest commentaries written on the stations of the aspirants, probably the latest one is that one written by Imam Abdul Rauf al-Munawi, who died in 1031, if I remember well also. Imam Abdul Rauf al-Munawi, the famous commentator on the Al-Jami' al-Saghir by Imam al-Suyuti, which is a selection of hadith, a very famous selection of hadith. And then in the modern age, in this century, in the, let's say the 20th century, we have a commentary by Sheikh Abul Fayd al-Manufi, who was a Shadhili Sheikh. And we also have the lectures by the Grand Mufti Dr. Ali Jum'a. And I would also like to point out that my Sheikh, may Allah have mercy on him and be pleased with him, started a series of lectures 2 years ago, that's like 1 year before his death, on the stations of the aspirants, but he did not really complete his lectures on the book. So we need to realize that I can tell from my own readings that the aphorisms of Imam Ibn Ata'illah came to replace the stations of the aspirants as the most popular Sufi-based text or matn. Okay? So now we are paying our homage and interest to this great, concise collection of Sufi sayings and aphorisms, pointing the way to those who want to be in close connection with the Lord and to gain ascendancy in Sufi matters. The commentary that we are depending on for the purposes of these lectures, the lectures I'm delivering, is that of Imam Muhammad ibn Ibrahim ibn Abbad al-Nafzi al-Rundi, who was a Shadhili Sheikh that lived in Morocco in the 8th century AH. That's around the, let's say, the 14th or 15th century AD. And he is one of the earliest commentators on the aphorisms, one of the very early commentators on the aphorisms. Is actually this is the essential and the prototypical commentary on the Hikam, right? It's a very pioneering work. A lot of commentators depended on Ibn Abbad's commentary on the Hikam for their work later on, including Imam Ahmad Zarruq, of course. And if you are keen enough on knowing how important this work is in the lineage, that is the line of commentaries on the Hikam, then you need to go to Imam Zarruq's commentaries, because he wrote several commentaries on the Hikam, and to see how influential this book is. And the influence of this book also appears in several other commentaries, so that a lot of people consider that Imam Abdullah Shaqawi's commentary on the Hikam is actually a summary of Imam Ibn Abbad's commentary on the Hikam. Of course, Imam Shaqawi has his own contribution, but for the basic part of his commentary on the Hikam, he depended on Imam Ibn Abbad's commentary. So this is the commentary that runs through most of the commentaries on the Hikam that followed it. And he was preceded, Imam Ibn Abbad was preceded by only one commentator who lived like half a century earlier. I guess his name was Ibn al-Saigh al-Dimashqi. If I remember well, his name is stated in the introduction to the commentary on the Hikam by Imam Ahmad Zarruq. I only remembered to check the information on my way here, so I did not have enough time to check the exact name of the earliest commentator on the Hikam. The earliest commentator on the Hikam is far from being known to us now, and we know that this book is the first influential commentary on the aphorisms of Imam Ibn Ata'illah as secondary. I can give you details on the what I might call the Hikamology. All right, there's a whole discipline of knowledge that is centered on the base text, the matn of Imam Ibn Ata'illah. You can count up to like 30 or 40 commentaries, 50 commentaries if you like, maybe 60 commentaries, for the basic reason that we have news that Sheikh Ahmad Zarruq alone wrote either 17 commentaries or 30 odd commentaries on the Hikam, because we have two different stories about the number of commentaries that Imam Ahmad Zarruq wrote on the Hikam. So one single man wrote so many commentaries on the Hikam of Imam Ibn Ata'illah secondary. So if you add up the number of commentaries, you have a very big body of work, and you actually have, I might say, different traditions in the commentaries on the Hikam. The main tradition, all right, is the tradition that was pioneered by Imam Ibn Abbad. So Imam Ibn Abbad's commentary will appear also in what is probably the most favored commentary on the Hikam now, which is, and we have to mention it of course, Imam Ibn Ajib's commentary, which is Iqadh al-Himam, the awakening of, what shall we say, a Himam, the awakening of interest, all right? Let me say the awakening of interest, or the awakening of stamina, or the awakening of vigor, all right? Certainly the translation is not a very accurate one, but that's it. We know that it is Iqadh al-Himam by Imam Ibn Ajib, which happens to be, I guess this is the most popular commentary among Sufis now. So this is by way of introduction to the book that we're dealing with. We can't just delve into the commentary or delve into the base text without knowing something about that, what shall we say, sub-discipline of knowledge centered on the aphorisms of Imam Ibn Ata'illah secondary. May Allah be pleased with him and grant us the same, insha'Allah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I have different plans for the progress of this course, and I'm really still figuring out things for myself. So I thought I would begin with just in the traditional way by dealing with the Hikam in the order that is set in most commentaries on the Hikam, taking one Hikmah after the other one, or one aphorism after the other. I would just like to pick up two passages from Imam Ibn Abbad's introduction to his commentary. I've just received my copy from Shireen now, so I just need to find my way to the specific passage. Oh, let me read here, all right? In the second paragraph on page 1, I know that most people do not have this book, so I'm reading out. We do not claim, that is Ibn Abbad speaking, we do not claim with these words, the words that indicate that he is going to write a commentary on the Hikam, all right? We do not claim with these words we are writing, to be explaining the statements of the author. Nor do we say that what we are mentioning actually shows their views, that is, the views of the aphorisms themselves. That's the true intentions of Imam Ibn Atta'illah behind his words. He does not make any claim to giving us a categorical or decisive or one final interpretation of Imam Ibn Atta'illah's words, which will be identical with Imam Ibn Atta'illah's intentions. For if we had made such a claim, it would have been bad manners. It would have been bad manners on our part. That's a sign of not being polite towards the author of the Hikam, because the commentator, Imam Ibn Abbad, holds him in great esteem. Imam Ibn Atta'illah is so profound and so knowledgeable of the path to Allah that I do not venture or claim to have a final say on what he actually meant by the Hikam or the aphorisms. For if we had claimed such, it would have been bad manners on our part, making us deserve blame. You see how well-mannered the author is, and how he holds the author in such, the commentator, and how he holds the author in such an esteem that he is actually making a sort of apology for having ventured to write this commentary on the Hikam, and he is categorically denying to have the final word on what the Hikam or each aphorism actually means. We ask Allah refuge from this. He is actually doing isti'adha from such a claim. That's an important part of the path, the conduct, the Sufi conduct, that is adab, having the correct manners that an aspirant on the path of Allah should have, and showing the right kind of politeness and veneration towards the masters of the path. And certainly Imam Ibn Atta'illah is one of those masters. He is a sheikh in the lineage of Imam Ibn Abbad. So it's like Imam Ibn Abbad, who died in 792, is separated by two sheikhs only from Imam Ibn Atta'illah. Ibn Atta'illah is 709, so from 709 till the moment Ibn Abbad was probably initiated to the Shadhili order, you're talking about almost like 40 years or something. That's like two sheikhs age-wise, in terms of the age we expect to be held by a number of sheikhs on the path to the master sheikh, Imam Ibn Atta'illah. I hope you understand what I mean. We have exposed ourselves, if we did this, or if we do that, we have exposed ourselves to danger and harm by approaching something that is not fit for us, right? Because I am not of the station, the spiritual station that the author occupied. I can't be of the station that the author occupied. That's saying that an aspirant can't be faithful enough to his master. He cannot really be as good as he is, and that's showing the utmost amount of adab, as we said, utmost amount of being well-mannered towards the sheikh. Rather than saying that I'm giving you the final word on what the aphorisms actually mean, we are simply relating in this book, right? We are simply relating in this book what we ourselves have understood from the words. That's my own understanding. And I'm not claiming that this is the intention of Imam Ibn Atta'illah. What we were able, in other words, what we were able to understand from the words of the great Imam who composed the Hikam. What we have understood from the words and what has come to us of their knowledge and views. If we accurately represent the true picture and stumble upon the hidden secret, it is among the blessings that we are unable to encompass in thankfulness. And if we just hit the right meaning, then this is a blessing from God that we can't be thankful enough for, right? So if I just happen, by the merest chance, to hit upon the correct meaning, this is a blessing from God. So we realize that right from the beginning, the commentator is following the instructions contained in the aphorisms of Imam Ibn Atta'illah. That is, he does not really regard himself as the actual performer of his own deeds, because this is an act of tawheed. When you relate your deeds and attribute them to the Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's only a matter of Allah enabling him to reach the right meaning if he happens to reach the right meaning. So this is really a practical example of the adab of one commentator towards the author. On the other hand, if we miss the picture and aren't guided to those correct ways, that's to the true meaning of the aphorisms, we ascribe it to our own faults and ignorance. That's again being polite towards Allah, showing good manners towards Allah. The mistake is from me, while the correctness is from God subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we miss the picture and aren't guided to those correct ways, we ascribe it to our own faults and ignorance. The responsibility lies only on us, while they are the masters, Imam Ibn Atta'illah, while they are free of blame. That is, the Sufi masters in general and Imam Ibn Atta'illah in particular. They are free from, he should say, not of, free from blame, all right, from what we said and intended. Okay. So this is an important passage in the introduction, and we can later on compare this practice and these words to the instructions contained in the aphorisms themselves. Towards the end, I hope I can find the other passage. Yeah, I think here it is. The introduction is concluded with a supplication. That's a prayer, a dua. At the very end of the introduction, he says, "Oh Allah, we try to come closer to you by loving them, the awliya, the saints,
May Allah be pleased with him, with them. Since they love you, we try to come closer to you by loving them. By loving them. All right? That's the logic of loving the awliya. All right? Because loving them brings you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Since they love you, they did not love you until you loved them. All right, that's again a practical example of attributing all actions in this world to the creator of all actions, subhanahu wa ta'ala. They did not love you until you loved them. So by ثم تاب الله عليهم ليتوبوا. So by your love for them, they reached the love for you. By your love for them, they reached the love for you. So know that if God enables you to come close to Him and puts you on the path of sincerity and of faithfulness, right? It's not you who is to get the praise for this. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We haven't reached what they reached in loving you except in the portion of love that you have given us. We haven't reached what they reached in loving you except in the portion of love that you have given us. Therefore, complete for us this love until we meet you. Complete for us this love until it's not a very eloquent kind of translation, but it does. It is adequate for our purposes, I mean. You, O most merciful, may Allah bless and give much peace to our leader and master Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the last of the prophets, and to his pure, goodly family and those who follow them till the last day. This is where I start the actual commentary. With Allah alone is success, and from Him alone is guidance to the even, that's the straight path.